Good evening, everybody. It's 6 p.m. We're done with the echo? Good. At 6 p.m., I call to order the regular meeting of the Lancaster Select Board for Monday, September 16th at 6 p.m. Do we see Mr. Gifford online? I do not.
Unless iPhone 7.
Okay. Do a quick sound check. Dave Carr, can you hear me? You'll have to.
I can hear you, yes.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Quick reminder, this meeting is being recorded as well as broadcast thanks to our friends at Sterling-Lancaster Community Television. I'll begin with a roll call. Mr. Allison. Here. Mr. Kerrigan is here. Mr. Gifford is not, although he has made it clear due to a health-related issue that he wouldn't be here in person, but may or may not be online. He is currently not online, so let the record reflect. Present is Jason Allison, Steve Kerrigan. Absent is Ralph Gifford. Okay, we will begin. The first item on the agenda is approval of meeting minutes. We have meeting minutes of September 4th and July 15th.
Move to approve the minutes of September 15th and
September 4th.
September 4th and
July 15th.
July 15th.
Okay.
Sorry,
I will second those. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Mr. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Kerrigan, aye. I'm going to task you to keep an eye out for Ralph. Flag if he joins. Okay. Next, we have a very exciting scheduled appearance, which we are thrilled to be joined today by the Mortimer family. Do I introduce the chief or the commissioner first, and then?
Sure.
Commish? This is for the purpose of ratifying the promotional appointment for Patrick Mortimer to the rank of police lieutenant. Commissioner, floor is yours.
If I could just start off by thanking Kate Hodges, members of the FY24 Finance Committee and the Select Board, along with the residents of Lancaster for their support during the process of bringing back this all-important lieutenant position. This position sets a path forward for our department, strengthening officer accountability, adding opportunities for additional budgetary review and administrative oversight. These regulations will be increasingly important as we progress our policies towards the goal of departmental accreditation. For Patrick, this sums up 13 years of service as a full-time police officer and 7 years prior experience as a dispatcher. His reputation for excellence is only matched by his outstanding departmental dedication. After being appointed to full-time, he quickly advanced to the detective role, assisting with some of the largest drug seizure cases to date. He was appointed to sergeant in 2016 and has been a leader on the 4 to 12 shift since that time. He has proven himself as a valued asset to our department, and it is with my strongest recommendation that I ask the board to appoint Sergeant Mortimer to the rank of lieutenant. And
Thank you, Commissioner.
if it pleases the board, I would invite his wife, Sergeant Mortimer, and perhaps the town clerk, up to swear him in.
If once we ratify his promotion, it pleases us greatly. Give us a chance to say yes. Do you have any questions for the commissioner at this time?
Not one.
Okay, neither do I. Is there a
Okay.
motion to ratify the promotion?
So moved.
I second that. Any discussion on the motion?
No discussion.
Okay, great. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Mr. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Kerrigan, aye. Mr. Gifford is not present. Congratulations. You're promoted. We invite the town clerk to come forward. Why don't you do it in front of the podium? You guys step this way, right there. Perfect. Just so that the owl gets plenty of view.
All right, you're just gonna raise your hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the United States of America and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and will support the Constitution and laws thereof?
I do.
Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon you as lieutenant for the town of Lancaster, and you will obey and be bound by such laws, rules, and regulations as are or may be from time to time laid down for the government of Lancaster?
I do.
And do you hereby accept the position of lieutenant for the town of Lancaster?
I do. Thank you.
The good stuff now.
Now we lock you in.
Every time we have a long meeting to go.
Wait.
Oh, I had it.
keys here in case there's blood.
Yeah.
I think they would have practiced or something.
Right?
Do you guys want me to get your
Yeah,
picture?
get your picture over in front of the flag.
Keith, do I need to move anything?
No. Perfect. Okay.
Congratulations. All right.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you, Lieutenant. I hope you're taking your family out for a nice meal. I'm working. The burden of the badge. All right. Next item on the agenda. Kate, how do you want to handle this? Do you want to table it?
Yeah, no. Not unless you want to.
Nope.
I do have some notices. I can do whatever you want. I'm sorry, I should have given you that.
Oh, this is for the early voting? Oh, I see, yeah.
A little of this, a little of that.
Put it this way. Well, first, before we move on to the next item, I do want to take a moment also to acknowledge the retirement of Officer Gary Henderson, who served this town for 25 years on the Lancaster Police Force. Although he retired from the municipal force and is currently a public safety officer for the College of Holy Cross starting today, I think. Yeah. This particular retirement we're incredibly grateful for, but it makes me feel very old because I think I was on the board when we hired him 25 years ago. So, but we thank him, and please, Commissioner, pass along to he and his family our thanks for his 25 years of faithful service. All right. Other notices before we get on to the members of town staff who would like to speak. The early voting will once again be offered and is open to the public. I'll remind people at the end of this meeting as well. The last day to register to vote in the election for November 5th is Saturday, October 26th between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Early voting, which begins on Saturday, October 19th, will take place on the Prescott Building on the first floor and will be offered starting Saturday the 19th between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. The week of the 21st of October, Monday through Thursday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Friday between 8:30 and noon, and Saturday the 26th between 9 and 5 p.m. And the week of the 28th, Monday through Thursday between 8:30 and 4:30 p.m. And the last day to vote early will be Friday, November 1st between the hours of 8:30 a.m. and noon. All of this, I nailed it. I was looking at Mandy the entire time, nailed that. It helps to have it written down, probably by you, so that's helpful. I'm sure all of this will be available online as well, but I encourage folks to make a plan to vote. Tomorrow is National Voter Registration Day, also the anniversary of the signing of the Constitution, also my birthday, so all kinds of things. But the other two things are much more important than my birthday. But if you have not registered to vote, please do so. Okay. Next. So, next item on the agenda is members of the town staff have asked myself for an opportunity to address the board, and so I will go to whoever wishes to begin. Mandy.
All right. Most of you know I'm the town clerk here in Lancaster, but what many may not know is that I live here as well. 5 generations of my family, in fact, have or do call Lancaster home. In my time, I've seen overrides fail. I've seen businesses turned away. The current administration, however, presents progress. With Kate at the helm, this town has come together to support an override for a new school that was desperately needed for the children in our town. Rezoning to finally allow new economic growth opportunities in our town. Kate has led this town through these votes. She's empowered town staff to be seen and be heard. Her door is always open to both staff and residents of our town. She leads us openly and she leads us honestly and is always there for support when needed. We're lucky enough now to also have a great addition to this leadership with Kelly as our new assistant town administrator. Kelly, much like Kate, leads openly and honestly and truly has the best interest of all residents in mind, always. Under this administration, we have a lean budget and a budget book like one Lancaster has never seen before. At the last select board meeting, saddening and disappointing comments were made. The message that I took home was that staff is disposable, unappreciated, and now subject to unfounded accusations and disrespect in a public meeting. This meeting has had the most profound effect on staff, possibly even greater than all the meetings during our override conversations. Some individuals came to work the next day feeling like a target had been placed on them, and all the hard work they do was disregarded and viewed as unimportant. We are a team here, and when someone feels that, we all feel it. Our goals were voted down by a member of the board. The staff here has worked long and hard on those goals, giving great consideration to each and every item. Goals are what drive us throughout the year to keep us moving in the right direction. The only answer given as to why our goals were voted against was asking if we looked at the hard choices needed and what we can cut. We are currently operating on the trimmest budget possible without losing services. The underlying message received from last week's meeting is that cuts are the answer. With a lean budget, the only cuts possible are jobs. Departments don't have room to make deeper cuts and still provide the same service. So to suggest cuts, the hard choices, you're very simply suggesting we cut staffing. But at what cost and what savings to our residents? When I started working here, it was my understanding that we worked as a team with the select board. Understanding that,
Maybe you just speak up around the people in the aisle.
sorry.
It's okay.
When I started working here, it was my understanding that we worked as a team with the select board. Understanding that we wouldn't necessarily always agree, but expecting respect and civility. What I saw last week wasn't that, and I believe staff here deserve better. The only actual example given was a complaint regarding an email about a cake decorating class, implying that services like this and/or staff that run these services are unnecessary or frivolous. Speaking from what I see firsthand every day and outside my window, is that those services are important to our community members, to our voters. The community center is bustling every day. Not only seniors, but residents of all ages are finding activities to be a part of here. One person's grievance about receiving informational emails about town happenings does not and should not affect the importance of the activity themselves. Emails can be unsubscribed from or deleted without a second thought. What can't be deleted or dismissed is the importance these activities hold for members of our community. For some people, attending a cake decorating class, a game of pickleball, or coffee on the patio may be their only opportunity to leave their home and interact with people. The center provides a safe place for residents to participate in an activity, a cup of coffee with a friend, and most importantly, to seek help when needed. There are many citizens who are fortunate enough to not require help or services in terms of heating oil, food, shelter, medical care, but I sure am happy that those that do need the assistance have a place to turn. The services and activities run by the community center are something we should be proud of and absolutely make Lancaster a better and more attractive place to live. In closing, we have a professional staff here doing their very best every day, day in and day out to improve the town. I see engaging, pleasant interactions with the residents every day of every week. The staff here and their work deserve better. The success of Lancaster truly is a success to each and every one of us.
Be mindful of the owl.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I understand. These words have power, whether they are spoken or unspoken. They represent empathy, compassion, recognition, and they are all signs of good leadership. Kate, I am sorry for the statements made at the last meeting questioning a potential conflict of interest. If having a friend involved in the equation is a standard of a conflict, then no police officer would be able to work in his or her hometown. I know how the comments affected myself and other staff. I can only imagine how it made you feel. I have never known you to be anything less than professional. I respect and value you, your guidance, and I believe Lancaster's future is better because of you. Kelly, I apologize for how the citizens' comments and questions about your new role have impacted you and members of your team. I appreciate the partnerships you have brought to Lancaster. You continue to be a positive light for Lancaster's most vulnerable residents. To staff, I understand how outspoken residents' concerns over inflation, taxes, and anticipated financial increases related to the school have made many worry about job security and potential budget cuts. It is understanding how unsettling this can be. In the absence of a plan to generate more revenue, tax reductions are recognized as budget cuts. And I'll be honest, it's scary. To the residents of Lancaster, as a staff member and fellow resident, I get it. I'll be blunt, taxes suck. The staff's only desire is to bring the highest quality of life to Lancaster residents within our respective departments. And at times, that will require requests that have budgetary impacts. It is our job to ask for what we need so that we may succeed in our goals. And I do not know of a single staff member that asks without justification. But we get it. Without industrial tax relief on our residents, our residential tax dollars are our only form of funding. To the board, I'm sorry. I apologize. I understand. But the idea of how Lancaster treats staff and our residents starts in this room. Each of you are an elected voice of the community, and I would ask that you recognize the impact of the tone you set in every meeting. What you say and how you say it matters. I appreciate your willingness to volunteer and your time for Lancaster. And I recognize that we all want the best for our town. And at times we're going to disagree on the path forward. And that's okay. There are different ways to get to the same destination. And Lancaster's healthiest future depends on your voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I don't see anybody's hand raised.
All right, well, thank you. And we know you've heard from many members of many of your colleagues around town. And we, I don't want to speak for Jason, but I also echo the chief's commissioner's comments in that, we apologize for the tone that was set at the previous meeting and for the comments made. And I, for one, will work hard, and I think I can speak for Jason on this one, we will work hard together to continue to do the best job we can to lead the town the best way we know how and to work with all of you. We are incredibly grateful to the town employees and the elected and appointed leadership who work hard each and every day with a singular goal of making this town a better place to live, work, and raise a family. And we welcome anybody who is willing to be a part of that endeavor and that great cause, and those who wish to not be a constructive part of that. We understand they'll be a participant in our democracy because that's the way it works. But just know that there are those of us who will fight hard to make sure that the positive voices and frankly the result of the positive work is what wins out in the end. So I agree with what you said, Mandy, that we are on a great path because of the leadership of Kate and the work that you all have done to unite as a team, and I'm grateful to all of you for that work. Do you have anything to say?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll now move on to public comment. For those of you who are unfamiliar with public comment, if you're in the room, you can make your way to the podium. You get 2 minutes to speak if you're a Lancaster resident. Also, if you're online, I will go to you next. Please throw up your digital hand, and we will recognize you after that point. And let me set the timer. I see you at the podium. Go right ahead.
Go.
We'll leave at 1 minute mark.
Sure. I'm Roy Rezac, 125 Harvard Road. Speaking as a private citizen, though occasionally I will be talking about issues that affect the Finance Committee and some information that came to me because I'm on the Finance Committee, but I am not authorized to speak for the Finance Committee tonight, so I speak as a private citizen. I want to read the duties of the Finance Committee per our bylaws, which say that shall be the duty of the Finance Committee to investigate and report to the town its recommendations on all pertinent facts relating to any articles in a warrant, subject matter of which pertains to the appropriation or expenditure of money, the creation of debt, or the disposition of down property. For this purpose, the committee shall have access to all books, vouchers, etc. I noticed that tonight we have a Finance Committee meeting, joint meeting with the Select Board. I noticed that before that, the Select Board is moving to close the warrant. I ask that the Select Board not close the warrant until you meet with the Finance Committee, because the Finance Committee may have questions, may have items, may have issues that may change your thoughts and position on a warrant article. I think that citizens of the town would ask that you wait until you've heard the input of the Finance Committee before closing the warrant.
Anybody else? Sheila, is nobody else in the room? Sheila, you are up for 2 minutes. You can unmute yourself.
I'm Sheila Millette, 2748 North Main Street here in Lancaster. We all know taxes are high here in Lancaster because we don't have business to offset the residential tax burden. One select board member said in the previous meeting that the town is not looking at hard cuts. The conversation came after a no vote to the town administrator's presentation on financial goals for Lancaster. When asked what he would change with the town goals, he mentioned a conversation with a resident regarding cake decorating as a waste of town resources. Because he chose not to share his true thoughts on where he thinks Lancaster could trim the budget, I assumed he must agree. So how does the statement get translated to the public as a financial goal? I hear cut staff. Maybe close the community center or cut staff from the community center. Eliminate the Health and Human Service Department. Can you imagine our town without a community center now? Maybe some of you listening can. However, for some residents, the community center is a lifeline. Not everyone is able to enjoy the same opportunities in Lancaster due to their age, health, mobility, and finances. Programming and events at the community center offer residents affordable outlets for their physical, social, and emotional health. The community center offers a place of belonging. So I ask the board, are we spending too much money on the community center? Are the staff overpaid? Are we spending too much time and money on the Health and Human Services Department? Are we spending too much on public safety? How about the library? Post-COVID and with the current inflation, I think the staff and volunteers of Lancaster have done an excellent job, and I want to thank them publicly. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. There's a Duramo. I don't know if it's Mr. or Mrs.
Recording in
This is
progress.
Deb Duramo, 127 Harvard Road. Had a couple of things to mention. I noticed tonight's packet had some applications for Halloween on the Green, which is a great thing. I hope you approve that. I did notice that the bar that's being set up runs an hour and a half beyond Halloween on the Green, and I didn't know, 7:30 seems sufficient. I don't know why they would need to go till 9. The other thing I wanted to mention, I had a conversation with a state person about people texting during board meetings. It seems a distraction and inappropriate. And the state said, there's not much they can do about it, but, just suggesting to boards that putting down phones during meetings would probably be a good idea. Definitely be there for emergencies, but people texting during meetings isn't appropriate. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is, I can't believe we're continuing to sue our own historical society. People that are trying to do good for the town, preserve our history, and we're wasting our time and money going after these people. It's just ridiculous. And I hope other town members will speak up as well and just stop it. Come to a resolution and move forward. Wasting our money, our tax money on lawyers is ridiculous.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I can't seem to get the raised hand thing, sorry. I can't find it where there's that.
It's in the React thing where it always says. but would you like to say something, Sue?
Okay, I was clicking the button, not clicking react. Okay, sorry.
That's good, I mean, I see you there, it's fine, you can go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to
You got name and
say-
address, Sue.
Sorry, Susan Bunyan, 96 Grant Way. Ever since the new room got set up, it's really, really hard to hear people that are in the room. You can hear the people online very easily and very clearly, but the speaker for actually hearing people talk is very, very difficult. So I just don't know if that could be looked into because, you know, for especially those hard of hearing and you know, I know we have the caption thing, but that doesn't capture it clearly. So I don't know if there's anything that could be looked into more deeply about that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We are closing public comment. Thanks, everyone. Next on the agenda, administration, budget, and policy. We have a few items prior to our joint meeting with the Finance Committee. Number one is vote to close the special town meeting warrant for October 7th, 2024, and then sign said warrant. And then we have, before we do that, we have a few that I'm assuming Ralph hasn't emerged, has he? Okay. So we're going to table two of the items that Ralph wanted us to talk about in previous meetings, but has tabled prior to today. So is there a motion to vote to close the special town meeting warrant for October 7th, 2024?
So moved.
Second. Any debate, discussion?
We heard a member of the Finance Committee is interested in providing feedback. The question is, I don't know what sort of time.
Speak up, please.
So I don't know what sort of time frame is necessary to close a warrant. I know it is a timely matter, so I'm asking if there is an opportunity, and if there's not, then we close the warrant.
So typically, at least in my experience on the Finance Committee and on the board, is the Finance Committee weighs in whether or not they would like to recommend positive consideration or negative consideration at the town meeting. We do the same as a board after the warrant is closed, but that it's up. We open the warrant, people can submit things to the warrant, and then at a certain point we close the warrant, and then we then as a board, once the warrant is set, just as the Finance Committee has done for time in memoriam, will then on appropriate measures weigh in if they wish to recommend positive or negative or no action consideration for the townspeople at the special town meeting.
So it sounds like there's ample opportunity for the Finance Committee to be able to give the feedback necessary.
Plenty of time between now and October 7th, and oftentimes, sometimes those decisions, and sometimes even for the select board, although I think the last few we've done it in advance, so it could be printed on the warrant, sometimes those recommendations, determinations are made at the meeting just immediately prior to the special town meeting because members can't get together or whatever it is. No harm, no foul, as long as at the meeting the recommendation, if there is one, is made very clear.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Also a legal requirement that it has to be posted 5 days prior to, and so we're running it close. And in terms of at least 2 articles, they were sent to the Finance Committee for comment whether or not they made it onto an agenda. I mean, I'm at most of the meetings, so I can't say. And
I will help you with, we're just in the middle of a vote, so we will.
Oh.
So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And a no vote for Mr. Gifford as he was not here. Next, memorandum of understanding. I know that Ralph asked for this an update. I know there were some questions he had earlier in the summer or last meeting, I can't remember, about the $100,000 that was supposed to come as a result of the MOU that was negotiated for the North Lancaster project. As I thought was made clear, the money came in already, and I know the town administrator had circulated a memo to that effect early in the summer, at least to this board, and I know to a number of others. So I'm again, this was at the request of Mr. Gifford, who is not here. So if he's watching on Sterling-Lancaster television, the money came in a bit ago, and there is a memo in your inbox that outlines it. Is there anything further you want to add to that?
it's in the packet, and
In the packet as well.
there's
That's
some
how good-
items in it that needs to be explored by this board and hopefully the Finance Committee in the coming months.
For how to utilize those dollars.
Correct.
Yes. Sounds good. Okay, so now that gets us, speaking of the Finance Committee, to our joint meeting with the Finance Committee. I would invite any members of the Finance Committee to join us up here in these fine seats. I see at least two of you, and then some of you on the internets. Your chair is on. I'm trying to see if there are other members on. I do not see. You do have a quorum though, because you have Dick, Emily. He is online, yeah. So I yield to you, Mr. Trussell, to open your Finance Committee meeting at 6:31 p.m.
Excuse me, I'm ready to open it. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, yes,
I
yeah.
understand.
Yes, you should call your meeting to order.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Finance Committee, in conjunction with Board of Selectmen, to order by calling the roll. Jocelyn? Emily?
Yes.
Emily's here.
Roy's here, Dick.
And Dick? I hear nothing from you there.
So you've got Emily and Roy sitting in this room, and you're sitting in your room.
All right, so I have a quorum.
Yes, you do.
Turn it back to you now.
Thank you. And I'm going to invite everybody who is speaking in this room to try to speak at roughly this tone so that people can hear online. All right. Ms. Hodges.
All right.
Dick, can you hear Kate?
Go ahead.
I can hear mumbling, that's all. Anyone who speaks into a computer, I can hear. Anyone who speaks in the owl, I cannot hear.
In fairness, I was mumbling.
In the interest of full disclosure, Dick, she was actually mumbling.
I
so
was mumbling.
You did hear what she said.
Well, I didn't really say anything.
Right.
Yeah. Nothing of substance. Okay, can everybody who is not in the room see the screen? And hopefully those in the room
Can as well.
can
Yes,
see
right.
the live screen. Okay, thank you. So, this evening, there are several parts of the presentation, and rather than go through it the way we did in the last 2 years, which was sort of a marathon of me talking, and then if there were questions about the initial things, sometimes we had gotten so far past that people didn't know. So I'd rather go through everything, kind of subject matter at a time. So the topics that we're looking to go through tonight, a very quick initial review of the key terms and the difference between the types of capital, some questions and requests from the administration, myself, Kelly, and Cheryl Garapi regarding some policy and management needs that we need for the Finance Committee now that we're in a position where we are, where we have put money into a stabilization account, and where I hope that we will continue to at least recommend doing so as we move forward. And then the board can have a discussion about next steps on that, if any. Then I'll go over the outlay requests and get any questions for outlay. Then we have members of the library, Joe Muley and Ms. Emily Rose, who are here to discuss the proposed library project, which is on the debt plan as a placeholder, and then review other debt projects. Now, this is just an exercise today in letting folks know what the entire debt would be if we were to finance everything that we need in the upcoming 5 years. That is not to say that that is a good idea, and it is not to say that we are proposing that, but I think when people start talking about we need to do this and we need to do this, it's helpful to at least put a price tag to it, even if it's in 2024 dollars. Then we have, you all can deliberate on determinations and discussions for certain projects, if any. And then the staff would be looking for direction for next steps, because what we have in capital helps to inform not only our budget process, but we're going to be going into general fund requests in the upcoming couple of weeks. And then any other capital-related business. So in terms of capital, there are two types of capital plans. All different types of communities call them different things, but for our purposes, we have a capital outlay plan, which describes projects or acquisitions that are in the certain criteria that are listed here, and have an average cost that is dictated by the community. So for Lancaster, when we began this process about 3 years ago, we had our capital outlay at about a $10,000 average. It's helpful to know that the state's average for outlay is about $25,000, but the average, of course, takes into account very large cities and communities with far more robust budgets who can allocate $20,000 for IT, for example, within the levy. So we chose 10 because we thought that that meant something that was out of the ordinary, potentially a one-time, or at the very least would have a useful life of more than 5 years. The biggest difference in capital outlay and debt is projects or acquisitions that are paid by cash. So again, outlay is cash capital, and
You might need to share a different screen.
We're working on why the slides aren't advancing, everyone.
I'm going to try to go out and go back in. Can I just
you
cancel
need to
the
share a
meeting for
different screen.
everything?
No.
No, that was it. It had me in a different browser, and it's been happening all day. I don't know why.
While we're doing this, crazy use of my cell phone, I did reach out to the applicant for the Halloween on the Green pouring license, and they always put in extra time at the beginning and the end for setup, breakdown, and cleanup. So, just wanted to people real-time updates on what's going on here in town government. And no, you're not missing anything. We're not saying anything.
Okay,
Okay.
so here's the agenda slide, but I probably don't need to go back through that.
Please don't.
Here's where we were, so, okay.
Sorry.
So, again, cash capital is outlay, and then debt is clearly things that are bonded and borrowed. As far as debt, we have our financing threshold currently set at $100,000 with a useful life of at least 5 years, if not more. We right now have an internal policy that long-term debt should not exceed the life of the asset. Although interestingly, we're still paying for the small portion of the high school that is going to be demolished. So while that isn't in Lancaster, we are in violation of that, but only for 1 year. So I think that needs to be revisited. And debt should be hopefully managed under 20 years. Again, large-scale projects like the school, that wouldn't be necessarily doable, but again, those are different when they're at the district-wide. So our ask of the Finance Committee and the Select Board is to consider creating debt policies to ensure that major projects are planned over a 20-year period, and that the impact to the general fund stays relatively the same. And of course, this is independent of the school. So I don't know as if we can take a position that we're not going to incur any debt for the next 30 years while the school is being paid. But I think if we have a way to spread that out in manageable payments as debt comes off, we can put others on. I understand that doesn't, excuse me, reduce anybody's taxes, and so that probably wouldn't be met with great joy. But it tries to even it out a little bit, so if we're paying $500,000 in debt, as something falls off, something else can come in to equal that level. But I think that's a policy decision that the boards need to determine. So I'm also looking for plans to consider for non-excluded debt. So for short-term periods, rapid debt repayment. So for example, we take out a loan and we say that we're going to do a 15-year loan, but we want to prepay it such that we're taking money from stabilization and prepaying it over 5 years so that the last payments are much smaller. That will help us take on a few more projects. Again, not multi-million-dollar projects, but projects like similar to what the library is going to be discussing. We need threshold for free cash transfers. So one of the things that I had suggested last year, and we did start talking about it at the Finance Committee level, is some kind of general policy. And again, these are subjective policies that, of course, the boards can decide not to go by if there's extenuating circumstances. But for example, if we get our free cash balance certified and it's somewhere between 3 to 5% of our overall operating budget, it would be a best practice to take some portion of that and put it into a capital stabilization. It yields more interest, and it also is able to sort of spend down the debt. That would be very much in keeping with having a rapid debt repayment where we're just paying it from some type of stabilization rather than the tax revenues. And then a plan to consider for outside levy limits. So what kind of percentage is the town willing to take on, again, outside of the school, but just generally? How much of a percentage of the debt do we want to incur? It can't be 0, but it certainly shouldn't be 50% because we can't afford to make those payments. So somewhere in the middle is the sweet spot, and I think, again, that's a policy decision for the boards. We also would like a policy to show an impact on property tax, so a requirement that we have to show the impact on property taxes before the vote is made.
Yes.
And while I know that that's been good practice and we've tried very hard to do it, there's been times where that hasn't happened in the past, and I think if we have that as a must-do, people might feel more comfortable about voting for something for or against. At least they know, a snapshot in time. And some idea about whether the debt should be always general obligation or whether there's a few others, and what committee oversees enterprise debt. This is coming to the forefront because the water department, who I'm hopeful that Scott is still on here, is asking for a pretty considerable amount of debt, which understandably they're going to pay for from the enterprise account. But in the interest of full disclosure, we have been questioning whether the water department has the capacity to pay the premiums on the amount of debt this many years out, and you'll see that a little bit later. So who oversees that? Is that just the Board of Public Works that brings that forward to town meeting, which has been in the past? Or is there some integration that I don't know if it can be required because they're a separately elected board, but highly encouraged, or something at the finance and select board level. So we're looking at our total debt picture because regardless of where we're paying the premiums from, it impacts our bond rating and it also impacts our cash stability. So I think that those are important pieces as we try to enter into year 3 of this budget process. So as promised, I'm going to be quiet now, except for now it won't move forward, so I don't even know. Isn't that fun?
I think that was amazing. Thank you so much.
So is too much, not enough, questions?
I think it was great for this portion. Mr. Trussell, do you have any questions, or does your committee have any questions?
I'll ask my committee members if they have any questions.
I do not have any questions.
Just maybe a quick comment and a question? Okay.
Roy?
Yes. Dick, I do have a question and a comment first. First of all, Kate, thank you very much for laying this out. It would be helpful because of the rapid way in which you can speak, if you could give us a hard copy of this so we can...
Absolutely, yeah. And I have a memo to go along with it.
Great.
I just didn't want to spoil the fun.
Right.
Great, okay.
Shocking news, you have a memo.
I guess I would agree with many of your comments in terms of the needs for policies here. I would say that relative to the question about the enterprise groups, I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if an enterprise organization connected with the town in some way fails to pay its debt obligations, The town is then responsible for those debt obligations, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Given that, I would say that the Finance Committee and the Select Board do have the responsibility and indeed the requirement from our taxpayers to oversee that and make good judgments and, vote, yes, we recommend, or no, we do not recommend, because it could have significant impact on us. So I would answer that question that way, giving your answer to my question.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you. Dick, do you have any comments yourself?
My only thought is that I've expressed it before. I like what has been proposed, but I'm leery of it because it would take away flexibility now while we're in such a state of need. I want to see it down the line, but I'm not in favor of it now. That's my
And I think,
because of lack of flexibility with available monies.
and Dick, is that in reference to, like a policy about transferring into stabilization when free cash is at a percentage?
I'm sorry, I will stay on here so that we have a quorum, but I cannot understand a word you're saying, so I'm sorry I can't answer you.
The question was that about a policy, a particular policy, a recommendation to create a particular policy about creating thresholds for stabilization funds, et cetera? Or was that about a particular project that you thought we didn't have the resources now?
I still didn't get it, I'm sorry.
All right.
I think it's a sham that we're dealing with. That's all. You're not including anyone in this town at the group meeting. So sorry about that. And perhaps, since I can't attend these meetings, generally I should resign. We'll consider that too.
I think we can address the owl before we get to resignations.
Thank you.
So, first of all, if you resign right now, you wouldn't have a quorum, and then we'd be in a real...
And we couldn't vote at the end of the meeting.
Right. Yeah, they'd have to keep the meeting going forever.
Can we just pause for 1 second while we try to troubleshoot?
We sure can. We're gonna try to troubleshoot
Can we get the audio?
this
Okay, do you want
circumstance.
Closer that way?
Yeah.
Try that. The other thing to do
Why
is,
is it I can hear everyone on a computer?
Well, because you're in a closed loop with them on the computer. So we're relying on a microphone that's hopefully we just moved it to closer to us.
I'm hearing you very well right now.
Oh, good.
Oh, well, can you hear me all right? No. Can I switch seats with you?
Dick, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
But try it again. Well, now
Can you hear me now? I think it's a block on me.
Try it one more time.
Dick, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right.
All right.
No one move and no one else say a word.
Okay, and no more talk about resigning. I almost had a complete fit right here.
Please ask your clarifying question of Mr.
Okay,
Trussell again.
so the question, Dick, was I was wondering if, when you said that it didn't allow enough flexibility, if you were referencing my question about developing a policy whereby if our free cash is a certain percentage, that we would allocate some to stabilization.
Yes and no. Free cash, is a misnomer. But if we say a certain percentage of free cash must always go to stabilization budget funds, that reduces the availability of free cash for even just to defer taxes, which is not its purpose, I understand. But it takes away flexibility. Until we begin to get industry or the building that we're looking forward to in North Lancaster, I am leery. I'm not opposed to it, but I am leery of setting up stabilization funds now. That's all. I think the idea is perfect, and the long-range pursuit is perfect. I'm just leery of the time that we're in. Kate, it is an affirmation of what you want to do, but it's a question of when, that's all.
Understood, completely.
Okay, thanks, Dick. I tend to agree with you. I'm gonna ask if Jason has any comments, and then we can go
Yeah,
from
so real quick, I think I agree with Dick, but I want to say that, like, policy is not law, and I think of policy as guidelines, and there may be situations for any policy that we need to make an intelligent decision. So I'm all for the policies and the guidelines, and then we got to go be leaders after that point. So Dick, I agree with you. I'm more worried about not doing anything and kind of being in just some sort of circular, who knows, feedback loop. So anyway, that's the feedback. I agree with you, Dick, but I'd rather have a policy as a guideline than nothing at all.
Okay. Yes.
Just a quick comment. I would suggest.
You're gonna have to yell.
Okay. I would suggest that relative to the policies, always a good thing to do is to put into the policy what board, what person, what elevation level can override this policy or approve exceptions. So I think that's an important criteria to put in there, and Dick, I think it will help with the issues you're bringing up.
All right, so sorry, Dick, go ahead.
I'm a little bit concerned in previous discussions with Kate. Let's say $100,000 from capital. How much of that do you plan to use? The full 100,000 because you set 100,000 limit on the grant, or just a portion of it? And then who determines what is the correct use of that money after it, as it's to come out of stabilization?
So I think those are all really good. Yeah, those are all really good questions. We'll have Kate answer them, and then if we can move on to, I would love us to end this portion of the meeting with asking for draft policies to be written up, for us to consider, and for us to hold. I think it's a help. First of all, the process of writing the draft policies, I think, is going to be helpful. I would be shocked if there weren't already drafts somewhere in the world, and so I don't suspect it'll take very long for us to see copies in advance of another joint meeting where we can really maybe even focus solely on these questions. Because I think there's a lot of good nuance in there that's important for us to cover, and both the flags that you and Roy have raised. So.
I agree wholeheartedly with you, and I promise to attend, so we won't have this difficulty.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to have Kate answer your question, and then we'll move on to get each board to vote to authorize Kate to draft some policies and get back to us.
Yeah, so the quick answer to the question, Dick, is that any transfer from the stabilization for any purpose requires a town meeting vote. And so what will happen is that we're essentially going to be having a town meeting vote a whole year ahead of time, give or take, before we need to spend it. And then whatever is not spent, we can either transfer back, or you could redline it and put it into another budgetary category. But you are right that it doesn't allow the flexibility because of the town meeting, but it's not like it's going to be taken out necessarily in one fiscal year, used the next month, and then just sit around floating. It all remains part of the general fund until we move it back for the accounting principles. So that's sort of the short answer to it, but I understand, and you are right, that it does limit the ability to just have it for any other purpose, and in my opinion, that was the point, right? Is to say we're going to take this free cash and use it to reduce. It effectively reduces the tax rate because we're already allocating money to debt that we know we're going to owe. So for this fiscal year, it would have gone up $2.19, and now it's only going to go up $1, give or take, because we already have $1 million allocated in FY26. To a $1.97 million, bill.
Right. Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Dick, do you want to request a motion from your committee to join the select board in tasking the town administrator to draft policies for our consideration at a future date?
for consideration at a future date.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Why are we voting now for a future date?
We're voting so that she knows she has the authority to draft up some policies that we've just talked about. It doesn't mean we agree to them. They're drafts and then we can go look through them in detail. But these are concepts, those will be written up.
Okay, I understand and accept that. So I'll ask for that motion from one of the members.
Roy's raising his hand.
Yes, Dick, I'll move to authorize Kate to work with the Finance Committee and with the Select Board to provide a draft of the policies, financial policies that she discussed here tonight at a date to be determined.
Okay, Emily, are you there?
Second?
Okay, any more discussion?
Just,
Then we'll vote.
I'll have them by their next meeting.
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Dick, yes, unanimous, and I turn it back to the Board of Select people.
Thank you, sir. All right, is there a motion to do the same?
So moved.
Second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Go forth and draft. All right,
Fourth and draft.
go forth and, not right now, you gotta stay here, yeah. We have other things to do.
Thanks for the clarity.
Don't run out of the room and draft. All right, so we have, that was the,
Part one.
part one.
Part one.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Part two.
It looks like it says here, so I've got FY '26 capital request, draft debt plan, which is what we're just talking about, yes?
Nope.
Nope.
So I'm moving on to outlay now.
Other capital outlay matters.
Yeah, you don't, there's nothing on the agenda. This is all one agenda item.
Okay, so I was wondering where part two was. 'Cause
Yeah,
they're
sorry.
all, it's one big thing. Okay,
I made it up.
take it away,
Part two.
Kate.
So we're going through the outlay request here. So remember, this is cash capital. That's a big sticker item right there with 898.5, but please understand that that had a recommendation of at least 250 in stabilization. If that is off the table, then we're down to 648.5. Is that a no vote?
I don't know, but if he drops over, we're not gonna have quorum, so.
So one of the things we talked about last year are these reoccurring expenses that, in theory, have been happening for years and years, and I will use the replacement of at least one cruiser every year. That has been happening, but I think memorializing in a sort of an annual allocation has been helpful. So this is the first year that the capital plan contemplates that and sort of calls it out. So in terms of technology, this is for computer replacements, phone replacements, data line replacements, all of the things in all of the different town buildings and organizations. So that is a little bit less than maybe 7 computers a year. And understand that we have, well over 100 and something, it's on the inventory plan that I gave everybody.
How long are those computers expected to last?
I mean, our tech monitors say somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 years, but we have built it out for 7 to 8. So with
It's not gonna last 5.
with routine
You'll be lucky to get
maintenance.
to 5, yeah.
But we have others that have, it depends on the use.
I don't doubt that some of them last longer.
So some of them have lasted long.
And if you leave them in a box, they'll last forever.
It has not been particularly affordable to do a 5-year
Understood.
replacement with the volume. That doesn't mean we can't get there when we catch up, but we have some computers. There's actually one in the library that is 13 years old. So, congratulations, you have the oldest one.
Is it in the museum portion?
In the Civil War Museum or what?
So in terms of records retention, this is for birth records, death records, things like that. For a very long time, there was, shoe boxes or pieces of paper, and I think digitizing things has been helpful. We've started that. Mandy Cannon has been great in doing that over the past couple of years, and so that's to continue with that. Planning studies, obviously, these are for peer reviews for things that the planning board or the zoning board of appeals wants to do that's independent of what the applicant is going to ask for. So these are questions about setbacks, conservation, those kind of things. So these are the things if projects are coming forward and they want to get somebody's opinion outside of the required peer review from the developer, this is the ability to do that. Human Services, $10,000 for printing. They want to send a newsletter, and we'd really like to start doing that. That was what we started this year. $5,000 for Disability Commission. The last couple of years, they used it for the resource guide. That's for that commission to decide. It's not a great deal of money, but it's something that they can do impactfully. Historical Commission, $10,000 for their use, either programmatic, general maintenance, grant matches. So I think the Historical Commission will talk a little bit more about that at their general meetings. $25,000 for facilities in general. So that's all facilities: a window, breaks, one of the solar panels. Well, actually, that would be enterprise, but anything happens. Sprinkler head gets damaged, anything like that. New keys. Facilities, parks, and ADA, there's money in there, and then the public safety equipment is for the systematic replacement of the self-contained breathing apparatus for the fire and EMTs, and then obviously the police vehicle is last, which is something that's been happening for years, and that's about $200,000. The nice thing about the annual allocations is that if we don't,
I'm sorry, was someone saying something? Did somebody else hear that?
It was Dick, but he muted himself.
Oh, all right.
Okay, so if we don't use the entirety, it will just remain in free cash. So this is sort of a pay-as-you-go. It wouldn't be any more than this, but depending on if we have a relatively good year facilities-wise and things don't break, then we might not use it all. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Where did the police vehicle come from?
Where does it come from?
We did bought one a couple of years ago for that amount of money. Where did the allocation for $62,000 come from?
A couple years ago, where did it come from?
No, I think we're in this.
Oh, in this. This is a systematic replacement every year. We take the oldest cruiser and replace it with a new one. So you would see, the way I built it out in the overall plan is I increased it by about 1,000 every year. Just.
I know do that or have done that, but we talked about it and agreed that by going electric, I guess basically call it electric, that we added a year and there would be a year where we would not need a vehicle. And I'd like to see us consider not needing a vehicle this year.
What I think I'm hearing you say is that you believe that when we started shifting the fleet to electric, that you would be able to extend the replacement time by a year. Is that what you're saying?
I realize it's the vehicle that you buy, not the one that's getting older.
Exactly. So the ones we're buying are replacing older ones that are internal combustion engine vehicles. That may be the case, Dick, and I'm just speaking, and I'm looking at the commission, so he'll tell me when I'm wrong, that when we have an all-electric fleet, that we will be able to stretch out the replacement time frame longer, but while we're still dealing with replacing some internal combustion engine vehicles, they still have to be replaced earlier, even if we do end up replacing them with an electric vehicle.
This is what I was talking about before. This has become a policy, not necessarily necessary. It's become a policy. I want us to look at it. Do we need a vehicle this year? Is the vehicle scheduled to be turned in, unable to be used for another year? I mean, $62,000 is an employee for a year.
So I don't know.
It's a big difference.
I hear you. So let me tell you, I joined the finance committee in 1996, and we had this very conversation 28 years ago, because we would get to a crisis point where we needed to replace a cruiser, and we eventually realized we replaced one on average every year because of the mileage that ran up. It is sure, if there is a vehicle, and I know there's oftentimes, or at least in the past, I don't want to assume, where we've transferred a vehicle from an active cruiser part of the fleet to another use for the town, so we don't necessarily get rid of it. But its useful life as a cruiser has a useful life that is relatively by route, right? Like there's very few exceptions that a cruiser is going to be used less than another one. And so this is not a new practice, whether it's a policy or not, it's not a new practice, but I do think it is good policy.
I have no problem with that, and I just want to say, however, we don't have a fire chief. What are we doing with that vehicle?
It actually replaced the administrative fire vehicle that was no longer working, and then we sold that on
No,
municipal.
that was a truck. That was not a vehicle. That was a truck that they used to plow with.
Yeah, there was an SUV.
No, it was an SUV.
They have 3 cars. Car 1.
But it was not an on-the-road vehicle.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was. But I don't want us to get too far afield on the.
We won't get bogged down here. Move forward.
All right, thank you.
Well, okay, so specific project requests, so these are non-reoccurring, and they're in no particular order, was the community center HVAC changes or maintenance to the Prescott parking lot, budget software expansion, an all-terrain vehicle for the fire department, a highway truck replacement, highway barn oil furnace, and a highway barn roof replacement. So in terms of the community center HVAC, in keeping with the town's green initiatives highlighted throughout the updated master plan, HVAC mini splits have been proposed for each of the rooms in the community center where people gather, including the gymnasium, the cafe, and the first floor activities room. These will replace standalone window units, which are costly to run, inefficient, and subject to failures often, particularly when folks are in the rooms and they turn them on and off or they adjust them up and down. You can see some of those in this picture, and obviously the leaking, the leaking one on the left-hand side. The second request is for $35,000 to purchase paving materials and asphalt needed to repair the back parking lot area outside of Prescott and the lower 88 parking lot at the community center.
Question.
Yep.
When you say the suggestion is to replace the current air conditioners with a mini split in each room, you've had someone do an engineering study. Fine, thank you.
Yes.
Dick, the question was, did we have someone do an engineering study relative to replacing the current units with the mini splits? The answer was yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, okay. In FY25's capital plan and the general fund budget, the town proposed an expense of about $7,000 to purchase interactive budgeting software. So I included a link and a QR code on the slide, so when I give it to everybody, you can go to the actual website and check it out. It's probably the same video that you might have seen last year, but for those who may have forgotten it, I was hoping to... Oh boy.
She stopped talking, Dick. You didn't trail off. She just stopped talking mid-sentence.
I do that sometimes.
Is this the same software? That we currently have?
No, we don't have any software.
Oh, I thought we did.
You have Hodges ware.
It's never failed.
Which is not very good.
It was proposed last year.
Oh, that's, yeah. Okay. What are you attempting to do?
Award-winning budget book in a fraction of the time. ClearGov's digital budget book
You gotta share a different screen.
It's easy to navigate.
What? I'm doing
You're not missing anything.
Sorry. Can you mute that? Perfect. This is what we had to do last time. Okay. All right, and everybody can see that, right?
Welcome to ClearGov.
They can't hear me.
We'll
So I
explore
can't
how
test them.
easy it is to build an award-winning budget book in a fraction of the time. ClearGov's digital budget book engages viewers with an online book that's easy to navigate, can be viewed from a mobile device effortlessly, and can be downloaded as a professional PDF with just one click to exceed public expectations for optimal viewing. And creating the budget book is easy and intuitive. You'll begin by either building your budget in our operational budgeting product or by simply sending us your budget in an Excel spreadsheet. We will map your budget into our system. Then, at the click of a button, ClearGov will instantly build the framework of a dynamic budget book with a table of contents, templated pages, and auto-generated content to save you time and give you a head start. Pages are fully customizable and enable users to add content to any page using our pre-formatted panels for narrative text, charts, images, and more. Fund summary, funding sources, and department pages can also be created automatically by filling out a few fields and pointing the tool to the specific content you want to pull into the page. The page is instantly created and auto-populated with compelling charts and tables.
Okay, well, that's, I guess, the general idea. So you can unmute that.
May I suggest,
There's a QR code you can see.
for our friends online, there's a QR code we'll throw up, and folks in the room can scan it as well, and watch the presentation.
So, in addition to what the budget book does, there is also a capital, personnel, enterprise operating, and other budget, which the finance director, Cheryl Garapi, has proposed. It is not inexpensive, as it's about $19,000 a year. That would include the budget book. Right now, the budget book portion of that is $5,500. So certainly go to the QR code. We can talk about it a little bit more in depth, and definitely at the finance committee meeting, we'll do a presentation of that. And if the committee is interested, we can have the folks from ClearGov come in with a much better presentation than my YouTube. But it is worthwhile. When you go to other communities that have it, you're able to build the report based on the data that you want to see as the residents. So if you're interested in how your home taxes and houses equate to that of your neighbors, that's one thing. If you want to look at it based on square footage, that's another thing. If you want to look at how much of your personal tax dollars goes to the police commissioner versus the town administrator, you can do that. So there's a lot to do. It's a lot of data input that goes in, but with the new software program that was purchased right prior to when I started, which is Vadar, we have the ability to constantly put in these sheets into it, so it would stay updated, and I think would be helpful, and certainly people can use it or not, but I think it's a pretty robust system, so it's neat. That said, it might not be $20,000 neat.
Right, okay.
Copy that.
Primary benefit of this would be to the residents, to the taxpayers, to answer questions. Would it help with the preparation of budgets?
Yes, so as you may know, we had a budgeting person that worked here, and she has since left. And so in the wake of that person leaving, Cheryl and I tried to investigate, how it was that we could perhaps use technology. Not that I think technology replaces human beings, but just to try to supplement it a little bit. And there is something to be said about what it can do. This is going to be an interesting year because it's a bit hybrid, because we're starting to build it and putting all of the data in it, and I'm already starting the budget book. So I think we're going to get a bit of a half and half this year, but certainly the following year it would all be automated and online, which is, really the goal. Okay, so the fire all-terrain vehicle, so project 3 relates to the acquisition of an all-terrain vehicle for public safety. So just anecdotally, some months ago, a gentleman was walking in the woods with a family member when he got fatigued and could not walk out on his own. It took police and fire nearly an hour to locate him more than a mile back on the trail, and then the commissioner and Lieutenant Aldrich hand carried him out of the woods on a stretcher, and it was 90-something degrees. But they did a good job doing it. So this situation happens more often than people realize. And so the ability to get a vehicle in and around safely in our trail system without damaging a lot of the trails, even if it's only halfway down, I think would have helped that particular situation. So I offer that just as a more recent example, but there's...
Can I ask, what's the average lifespan?
The average lifespan?
Of, not a human being, of an fire all-terrain vehicle?
12 to 15 years.
Oh, all right.
So it's about $35,000.
Or about
Yes.
$3,000. Yeah.
Chief, when it comes time to discuss this more, I would love to know how many calls this would have helped. Is it one, or is it like 100? Like, just want to understand
We
that.
would be looking to outfit it for a dual purpose, so not only for a rescue purpose, but also to be able to put something that is brush compatible, small, contained for water, to deliver water and to put out brush fires in our forest. That is something that happens far more often than the other, but both are equally important to our trail system.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're differentiating between like a nice to have versus a really should have. That would be my
Yep.
point. Okay, thank you.
We'll have all that ready in the presentation.
Thank you.
Is Scott McDonald on?
I did not see him, I'll check again.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
So,
Did you want to talk about the highway truck replacement?
I hope so.
And I'm not quite sure which one that's slated to replace, but we've got quite a few that need to be replaced. So any truck is welcome. We've been way behind on our equipment replacements. We're stretching them out way beyond their expected lifespan.
This is a replacement of a 2011 Chevy C2500, which has 105,000 miles and rust on the body. This is not a picture of that.
I would hope not.
There is another truck in there that has the blown engine.
That's,
Is that being replaced here, or that's not being replaced with this truck?
That is not at this time.
Okay.
No, that's not the one with the blown engine. The
Um,
one with the blown engine is a $400,000 truck,
we're out of place now.
and that's a 2005.
Any other questions for Scott? I have one that's not related to replacement of the truck that could go to Scott or Kate. It's related to the paving in the Prescott parking lot in the back of the community center. Is there any way we can see cost reduction by working with DPW on any excess asphalt or materials they may have to?
We're just buying, that's the price to buy the asphalt, and then they would do the work. Other than that, it would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 150,000.
But there's no economy of scales by buying it when they buy all the asphalt that they buy for roads, patching, things like that.
I mean,
The answer can be no. I just.
I don't know the answer
I'm
to that,
sure
but
you're
we
going to look
can.
for all of the ways to make it cheapest possible.
And then there's two projects that are proposed for the DPW facilities. Scott, did you want to mention the $100,000 to replace the 25-year-old
Roof?
roof for the highway building, and $15,000 to replace the waste oil furnace in the highway barn?
Yeah, the roof at the highway barn has probably 6 to 8 pretty good leaks during the heavy rain and whatever, which is causing structural damage to the building itself the longer it goes. Generally, a wet floor in a garage like that is not a big issue, but it's everything in the ceilings that's getting ruined. And the waste oil furnace is probably 15 years old, and it has some deficiencies in the blast chamber where there's actual cracks and running. You can see the flames where you're not supposed to be able to see the flames.
Okay. Any questions for Scott? Yes, Dick.
Is this eligible for Chapter 90? Which one, the truck?
The truck, on the road truck that's shown here.
No, that truck is not. It's not big enough.
It's not big enough.
Right.
The other one is.
Yes, the one with the blown motor is eligible for Chapter 90 funds.
How come every year we spend our money on equipment?
Excuse me?
On projects? I mean, is our equipment in such bad shape, or is it just not being maintained?
It doesn't last like it used to. Everything's a little cheaper now. The metals are cheaper. Everything else. Like I said, that truck with the blown motor is a 2005. So we got, it's a 19-year-old truck.
Yeah, I don't want to confuse folks, Scott. We're not talking about replacing that one. I don't want to confuse folks. So we're talking about the 2011 truck.
So
we can move on.
Okay. Any other questions for Scott? Okay. Kate? Bring us home.
I'm sorry, I have to share, it's not.
Before she wraps up, I've got two quick questions.
Guys are gonna be disappointed, this is not a wrap-up. Keeps going.
Okay, I got two quick questions.
Okay.
When we're talking about new trucks and vehicles, there are two on the inventory that I'm bringing up a question in terms of should be looked at for possible, because they're very lightly used and we may not. I'm wondering if we need them. There is in facilities and buildings, there is a 2023 Ford Explorer that's appears less than 50 miles a year if the mileage is correct. My question is, why do we need that? Can't we backfill some other way for that usage? And the second thing is there's also a Nissan Leaf 2018 that's used for less than 700 miles a year. Could we look to replace that, get rid of that one and replace it with in some other way? I don't know what its use is for.
So the Ford Explorer is the building commissioner's administrative truck, and that is to cover him for insurance when he's out on inspections. He uses it obviously in town so it doesn't get high mileage, but he absolutely needs it. He uses it every day. And the Leaf,
Which is wrong then.
the Leaf is the staff vehicle that's used primarily by the assessors when they go out and do assessments and inspections on properties. But it's also used by every other staff member, including those in Health and Human Services when they have to go down to pick up food at the food bank or when they're doing so again. Also around town, low mileage, fully electric, but utilized every day, even if it's just for a mile or two. So no, that would not.
Okay.
Good questions.
But good questions. So again, this is the same slide that you already saw. This is the outlay draft plan. And of course, we haven't received anything from the school yet. So this is the municipal side of the debt plan, or the draft, sorry. The draft outlay plan.
Okay. Any questions? Dick?
I have no questions. Did any member of our committee have a question?
I would have a quick comment. While I agree with the general principle of allocating a certain amount for these annual outlays as you identified, I would also ask that you periodically review them and look at what was spent and have the managers review each year to decide, do we still need that amount of money? And to ensure that there are some less than appropriate ways of managing budgets where people can come in, well, I won't go into a lot of details, but just review the use of the budget and have managers look at it and say, yes, I still need it, or I could do a little bit better by doing this, this, and this. And I just ask them to look at it periodically.
So just in response to that, this is year one.
Yeah.
So we used last year's amounts, so they're based in fact, but that can't happen until year two, when we're able to go back and say we did implement the annual, so I think you're absolutely right.
I'm looking to the future with you.
And we love
Can't wait.
I'm all set, Dick, thanks.
Okay, turn it back to you.
Thank you. We're all set on the select board.
Okay, so we are now going to turn to the proposed debt projects.
Yes.
And I am going to ask the library folks to come up. I have their presentation, and I'm going to share my screen. And
I'm going to ask that.
Can I just make a quick suggestion? I think we need to take the podium out of the equation.
okay.
No, yeah, I was going to suggest
Definitely.
either Emily, you go sit next to Roy, and you two sit as close to this as possible.
Close to what?
To the owl.
Right next to me. Lucky.
You go over there in case you have to.
Yeah, you can.
Can't get out of the
Yeah, right.
Good effort, Emily, but you gotta go. Different Emily, you gotta go there. That
So
one goes.
since you're, do you want me to?
Yeah.
Where can I hit it?
All right.
Or, no, right here.
All right. Dick, we're gonna do a voice test. Joe Muley is gonna talk, I'll say 1, 2, 3, and has happy birthday or whatever.
Richard Trussell.
Okay, take it away.
What's the button?
See, it's right here.
It's freezing.
Oh, okay. So this is a presentation of the Capitol building capital project that we've been working on for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And it's kind of come to a head in some ways. So the information that I've derived to make this presentation are from 3 reports, and since 2015, we've known a lot about the problems in the roof. Spencer Sullivan started working on our building and the property in 2020. And finally, most recently, earlier this year, they created a master plan. So there is no fluffy stuff in this. There is just mechanical things that need to be improved, things of that nature. Yeah, it's kind of late. But that's the project scope. There's no furniture, there's no new additions, there's no anything to create new services. So what is deferred maintenance? Deferred maintenance is basically you have something and you use it until it breaks. At least that's been the strategy the town has had with the library, in particular with HVAC units. We've been riding on roof problems ever since I got here in 2001. But we've kind of reached a moment right now where we just can't wait too much longer before these really become problematic. So those are a couple of divisions that we're looking to improve. So, Jason, what if we didn't do anything? Firstly, don't blame the messenger.
He's not blaming you.
No, well, the information that's coming next isn't pretty. So this is a projection of what the cost of doing the entire project is from last year, 2024 early, to 2030. And so you could see from 2024 to 2026, it's a little less than $1 million more. And these will continue, actually it's a little bit more like $500,000 more. But these prices will go up. Right now, the prices are based on an 8% increase. That's on all the divisions and all the professional work that needs to be doing. It's a number, and it was recommended by our architects. So what if we don't do anything with the roof and masonry? So masonry helps the building hold itself steady. So the building has to have weight equally distributed amongst it, otherwise you get problems like leaks, mold, pests, damaged paint work, damaged walls and brick, as well as damaged books. So with poor masonry, everything else follows in terms of the problems you're going to have with your infrastructure and maintaining your building. So this is another chart showing you in the kind of orangish, rosish, where that price was in 24 and where we are now in 26, as well as if we continue to wait. What if we don't do anything heating, ventilation, and air conditioning? This is scary, guys. So the library's best unit is over 30 years old, and we had a renovation in 1999.
Yeah, why is we didn't update the HVAC 25 years ago?
We did. Well, actually, we didn't update it. We installed new units in the new parts of the building during the renovation.
And didn't touch the old stuff.
To save money. And considering how well some of the units were, it made sense. So our 30-year unit is still our best unit.
You can have that one there.
Yeah, that one does. Gangbusters, yeah.
Terrific. Can I take it off the wall after this?
Great.
Your hands will freeze.
So 3 units are down, including the museum, which is supposed to have an environmentally controlled effect. That was blown out during a snowstorm in fiscal year 2014. Most recently, it's the Nathaniel Dexter meeting room and the director's office. Hasn't had an air conditioner in 10 years. My board has urgently tried to address it, but I'm holding them back. Please don't do it yet. So the other really important thing is that the coolant we're using is grossly out of date. And the reasons, of course, are principally because of the high fluorocarbons it emits. So the EPA in 2003 passed a final rule that we have to stop using R22 coolant. And the new coolant begins in calendar 2025, which is going to be more efficient, and it's also going to be much fewer hydrocarbons, fluorocarbons. So the HVAC, even in the better days of 2024, was going to be real money. We have 14 zones. We have a boiler, which isn't going to be replaced. And it's not simple as just adding split systems. And we have rooms with incredibly high ceilings that right now are hard to keep warm. So engineers have the ideas of putting something together. In the feasibility study, it has some details. Now, I provided Kate copies of these reports that can be distributed to all of you, and I'll try to get them on the website too for anybody who's watching who might want to see them. All of this these numbers are recalculated, so they're actually a little bit lower than what I may have given you, Kate. So this is another big one, the carpeting. So to replace the carpeting, the building is 20,000 square feet. The most economical way is to use tiles, because if a tile goes bad, you just put in a new tile. But more than that, all of the collections have to be moved, or a good portion of them, and they generally will have to be held off-site. So there's a lot of labor in this, plus you have to junk stuff. It's not as simple as just saying, well, wait a minute, the carpet only costs $100,000. There's a lot of moving parts. And this includes the vendors, the architect's profit, and all the overhead that goes into something. So as reliable as these numbers may be, it includes everything of the project. Key takeaways. So there is a...
Can I ask a question? Was there any question on carpet to do it staged over time? Or is this all staged over time?
I only give you the final cost. Are you talking to me?
Who else would I be talking to?
Well, you could be talking to the finance committee.
They don't know about the carpet.
No, this is all at once, the carpet. That's the costs I'm giving you if you did the project as it's represented. How the town determines to finance it?
No, I understand the financing question. No, I was just asking, I just don't want to be getting yelled at by a future me in 25 years for why we replaced all the carpet at once and then we have to replace all the carpet at once again in 25 years. When it's a lot more than 1.2 million.
Well, it all got replaced
In
25 years ago.
Well, that's the, I don't want to get yelled at
And
by
it's been
future me.
deep cleaned many times, and it's a
We've had
public
it
building.
we've had it repaired.
we've had it
Lunenburg
repaired.
has a newer building and they've already replaced their carpet.
Well, don't blame us for their bad decisions.
That's true. And they've made quite a few.
Right.
As the finance committee rep, asking maybe the hard question,
Yeah, sure.
why do we put in carpeting when we know that's gonna have to go out? Why don't we use some of the new tile or wood sets of things and that kind of stuff? One of the answers that comes to me is, well, it's a library, you don't want something that reflects noise.
That's right.
On the floor, okay. If that's the answer, okay, but I had to ask the question.
Sure.
Because it seems like putting carpeting in less than 25 years, we have to rip it out and put in new. Whereas, the more engineered surfaces they have nowadays would last a long time.
So, Roy, some of the parts of the carpet wear quicker than others.
Sure, high traffic areas.
So if you use tiles, you might not necessarily have to replace an entire carpet.
Like this carpet is like that, isn't it?
You mean
Squares?
Sections
Yeah.
of time.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so you might be able
Sure.
to improve it as you go along on those high-trafficked areas.
I grew up in a house with carpet tiles. We had a lot of discolored, oh, yeah. Yeah.
What do you mean, really? It's a great idea.
I think
He's
it's a
smart
great idea, I
guy.
just never knew it in a
It was
home.
the
I always
70s.
thought
Oh, yeah, it was the
commercial.
70s. My parents weren't replacing a whole carpet. We just had little squares that were darker blue than the other squares. In a closet downstairs, so I'm a big fan.
It needs to be carpet,
Yeah.
okay.
Really
Carpet
pretty.
squares are the best way, probably the best way to go.
You don't want to be in a children's room with
That's the labor.
Sure, but, you know, I need to ask to make sure it got thought through, you know what I mean?
I look forward to questions, actually. So here are some key takeaways. So there's this cycle we've always been in, maybe with other town departments as well, is that the project is scary, expensive, and we delay. More of the systems fail, and then the project gets costlier. So what has the library and the town done to help itself? So right now, if you haven't noticed, all the windows and doors have been improved, restored. And that was from ARPA, CPA, which is already taken out of people's taxes. It's earmarked for certain things. And we did $27,000 worth of fundraising. So for the repointing, we're getting $70,000 in CPA, a $10,000 appropriation, and the library is kicking in $10,000. So in all those cases, both of those cases, the library has its own skin in the game. People might want to say, hey, there's an MBLC building grant, and there is. It built our building back in 2021. If we were to get it, 1991, yeah.
It's okay,
Yeah.
Power through.
you're doing
We know what you meant.
Hostile audience.
Just off by
So if we
double
were to
digits.
get the grant, it would only cover 6 million, 60% of it. But MBLC is not interested in covering projects that don't offer services and only deferred maintenance.
They're not interested or they won't? They won't.
Well,
They have a
what they
limited
did,
budget and they won't pick you.
yeah, I can apply, but right now, the 20 libraries that are qualified, that they only choose 10, none of them are deferred maintenance. So we would be 21,
We're a very lucky town.
yeah.
I just want to be clear, like, you will apply. What I don't like people do is just assume you're never going to get it. You can still apply.
Sure.
We can't tell the taxpayers there's a chance, even though it's.
I don't know if there's a chance, actually.
Is there a grant application to fill out?
I don't know if we can get a grant on this.
I understand we can't get one, but you understand if we say to the taxpayers we didn't even try.
To get a grant that we're ineligible for?
You didn't tell me, you said they're unlikely to.
No,
You
it's
didn't say-
ineligible. It's ineligible. It says it in my slide.
I understand, but that's not, those aren't the words that came out of your mouth.
I know, I understand that, and I'm gonna take a word back and just use the word in the slide. It's ineligible.
All right,
I could still apply for the grant if you
you could,
wish.
that'd be great, thank you.
Green communities, I'm looking into it with Brian, and the most we're gonna get for an HVAC system is $500,000.
It's a lot.
And the town requires a town match. So presumably, if we were to get money, we already have the match.
Well, yeah, it will. Presumably. But, I mean, if it's not $1 million project, but if we got $500,000 from somebody else, our match is half of what we were gonna allocate for it, yes?
That match would be half,
Yeah.
yes. So, yeah.
So we'll go for that too. That's amazing.
Sensing
This is fantastic.
Sensing some.
This is amazing. We're stacking up all the grant opportunities.
Closing remarks. Listen, the library doesn't make any decisions that has an outlay without thinking about the tax bills people get. And we understand that there was an override and a school project approved. But this is the oldest Civil War memorial in the country. It's important as a historical note. It's next to the Bullfinch Church. It's on the historic registers both federally and in Massachusetts. And it stings. I mean, we can get money, but the lion's share of this has to be paid for by the residents of the town. deferred maintenance is not a winner when you look for grants. Any grants.
Mhm.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean we're not gonna try. Emily right now is trying to get a fundraising committee together. I understand the Quills have a foundation that they might, this might
You
work.
just put them on blast right now. so
I know.
it's-
To see how I did that? You
Wonder if
didn't,
they're watching.
you didn't need to say it. It was there. So, yeah, we're gonna always have skin in the game. We're always gonna have our own skin in the game.
And I appreciate that. Can I ask you a question about, and I don't want to go back to the ineligible grant, but, I will. Is that, so it seems to me, I understand why they don't want to deal with deferred maintenance, but it would, I can't imagine we're the only library that has deferred maintenance issues in the Commonwealth.
I would say the libraries that have significant deferred maintenance are getting MBLC grants that includes an addition and more services as part of. So the libraries that might,
It's probably part of what we did when
Yeah,
we got our
definitely.
grant last
I understand
time.
what we did last time, because
But-
80% of our collection was ineligible, like you couldn't reach it.
Right.
That was a big part of the pitch back.
But now it's just,
I
I'm
guess.
just asking, is
Yeah.
it a compelling case for us to make to the legislature or to others to give them different marching orders or different resources?
I gotta say, Steve, I don't know the answer.
Yeah. It's
And
okay.
I appreciate and value your question, but I don't think it matters. Because we have stuff that's, but my best HVAC unit is from.
You know, I'm not
1990.
suggesting that, I'm just asking you as a professional in library sciences, if you think it's something that warrants raising it up through policymakers. Because it seems to me, as a New England state with a lot of aging libraries, to rule out deferred maintenance, and by the way, difficult financial times across the Commonwealth, to rule out deferred maintenance as ineligible seems like a bad criteria. I'm not suggesting it's by any ways going to get changed in time to fix the problems that we have. I'm just glad that you flagged it. So.
Yeah, I would say this is a very attractive to legislators earmark because of the historical
Yeah.
nature of the library.
And we
Lancaster.
will not give up on that. And by the way, as a card-carrying member of the,
Well done. Well done.
thank you very much.
but it does seem that for energy, mass save, all that stuff is targeted to residential.
Yeah.
You know, the heating system proposed is heat pump system, all the latest energy efficient, et cetera.
Yeah, but
there's no, you can get maybe 500,000 out of a 2.5 million. So you still got to come up with
Not
2
nothing.
million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But isn't there a program for municipal buildings for greening?
That's the
That's
mass
it.
save.
Okay, so.
Through the National Grid, and we would probably have somebody who would help us through that. I know I'm working with Brian right now to get answers to a lot of questions about our qualifications for the grant.
I see Mr. Trussell's digital hand up. Dick, do you have questions?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, could we go back to the HVAC? Back one more, I just where. Okay. This R22 coolant you're talking about, when in 2025 is it? Is it January or is it December?
Well, the R22 actually was out of compliance a long time ago. We're actually using a new coolant right now that is also getting replaced. So the new coolant is already expired, and they're moving to that, I believe, in January. So we're at least 2 generations behind on the coolant.
Okay, now, when you talk about HVAC, are you talking about this R22 coolant? Are you only talking the coolant portion of HVAC? Are you telling me there's no heat in it?
No. Our problems are generally with cooling and not heat.
Okay, so we're moving into a unit where the cooling will be unneeded for a while, isn't that correct?
I'm not sure I understand the question, Dick.
We're going to the season, yeah.
It's gonna be cold.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, sure.
Now, HVAC at the middle bridge. What if we didn't spend it on the HVAC and we plugged in that air conditioner for it, where would you spend the money?
On the rest of the project, we try to fix whatever we can.
That's what I'm trying to do now. What is the most, I mean, is it the roof?
The roof. The roof and the infrastructure of the building, inside and outside. One of the CPA grant.
Zero in on what's necessary. Not all of it's necessary, you know, the library's gonna let that.
Yeah, I mean,
What can be done, what cannot.
if you put a gun to my head, I would absolutely say the HVAC and the pointing and all of that work.
Why the HVAC?
No, not the HVAC, I'm sorry, the roof, definitely. And repointing of the building, some of that's already happening with the CPA grant. So we have beams that are cut that we have to fix. Yeah, so I mean, if I, gun to my head, that's where I would go.
We're trying to cut it up into manageable projects, but the HVAC is a biggie.
Oh, never mind, that ship is set.
It was a water gun anyway.
Thank you.
So one last thing I want to say to you, Mr. Chair, is that we are
Him or me?
Mr. Chair.
He's the chair, too.
You could say no.
You're prolonging this, Steve. Don't get on me.
You really are.
Keep going.
So, we are working with our architects, we're gonna meet with our building committee, and then hopefully soon, we're gonna meet with our building architects to see if we can break this project down and to sizable pieces. But then again, it goes back to that.
Yeah, sure.
So,
I understand.
Yeah. Look, I think, I mean, you all have done a lot with a little for a long time. And I am grateful to you for the analysis and the work. And
thank you.
you're trying to keep a treasure, not just for the town, but for the nation together. So I appreciate that.
That's right.
So we will definitely work with you to the best we can. Roy, hold on. Dick, do you have anything?
I'm here. No questions.
No questions, okay. Are you okay if I call on your members?
Yes, please do.
Question. And thinking of this as a way of possibly getting some more help to deal with the cost of this, it sounds like the museum is a unique collection of Civil War items.
Yes.
Have you given thought to possibly having some kind of program and tours through,
Yes.
and in effect charging for this? Well, let's put it this way. I understand the first reaction, but I've got to take the second step and say, you can see what the cost is. We've got to find a way to defer this cost or spread this cost out to more users. If we could, let me just finish it out.
Excuse me.
Okay. I'm just thinking, and I'm thinking outside the box, and I recognize that has to be brought down to earth. But could we do something like, we have school children come through, we charge, I don't know, so much a child and that kind of thing? You do something where we can bring in some revenue, would it make any sense? Would it help with this? It's a question, it's a thought question. I don't know the answer, you probably don't know either.
My first response is that the taxpayers have already paid for these services. And so then to charge them again.
Okay, then we charge only those outside Lancaster, but we advertise it and try to bring people in. Look, we've got to think.
I mean, I'm not averse to the idea, it's just that I'm careful with the residents that we would charge them for something.
And I hear you, and we shouldn't charge the Lancaster folks. Anybody who's a card-carrying member gets in free.
I'm all set.
Okay? But we should look to expand this. If it's as valuable and unique, okay, then we should think about, can we expand this and maybe bring in some revenue?
Yes.
Just a thought.
It's a good thought, because we've already contemplated, for instance, selling images of some of our rare books, pages of them that we can photograph, and they become something nice you can put on your wall. People do that, and we already have a policy that charges a person if they wish to have that service. So that's an example.
Just charge the first person $2.5 million, and then the next person a little less, and keep going down. Go ahead.
Where are you?
Yeah, all set?
I'm done.
Yeah.
Emily, do you have a?
No, thank you.
And not to rain on your parade, Roy, I do think we need to separate these, right? Like, you already all raised $37,000 as fundraising.
Yes, 27.
There's no chance, I'll call it now, no chance the paid students walkthrough is gonna be anywhere near that. So the answer to your question, yes, of course, we should try to monetize all of the value of the library. But at the same time, it's not even gonna be a drop in the bucket to the challenges that we have. So, Joe, I have so much I wanna say. I can't think of worse timing for your presentation.
Yeah.
Right, and I say
I
that.
understand.
I say that humor, and I say that as, I feel really bad. Because you mentioned in point 3, right? We passed an override, and then now we have the high school. Like, I can't think of, literally, worse timing. I can't think of anything worse, and that stinks.
I want to mention that we started on this feasibility project.
2015, 2016, I think.
No, a
that's
little
the
later
rule.
than that, but at the suggestion of former town administrator who pointed out that soon something would be coming off the debt before the new high school came in would be the perfect time to put this in.
Yeah,
But
so.
it didn't
So that was the
happen.
point I wanted to make.
Yeah.
Is you're doing everything right. Like,
Right.
you've done study, and you've created a master plan, and everything is laid out, and it's all right there, everything that any resident could offer.
Sure.
I did want to make a joke, probably not the best timing, but the library doesn't pay for itself? It's not a profitable business, and,
No, it's not a business at all.
okay. I just want to make sure all the residents realize that this stuff isn't free, right? I'm talking, Dick, just a minute. So I want to make sure that every resident hears me say that this isn't free and it costs money. So on one hand, we want to lower taxes, that's great. On the other hand, if we want to have amazing services like our library, it costs money. You can't have all of that. I'll also say that I go, what did I miss? What's the joke?
You just screamed to take trouble.
I don't know what happens when I come to a table, but this always seems to happen.
So the next part, I want to go really macro.
Yeah.
And Steve, and to the finance committee, I go back to our meetings about the town master plan, right? And the town master plan is all about the great things that we want for the town. Our reality is we can't afford any of them. We cannot afford any of them without raising taxes. And their Memorial Library is probably ahead of the old town hall, right? Which I think is being, who knows what's going down. I don't want to even assume this down there. So I get that we want to create a master plan that talks about really nice things that we want. Our reality is we need to increase commercial industrial development in the town, period, or we will have none of it, right? I'm not talking to y'all right now, I'm talking more to the finance committee, right? Like, I'll say it's my opinion, unless otherwise noted, there are no cuts to be made to pay for these things. There are no cuts to be made to pay for these things. So we have to figure out something else. And the only other thing, unless a resident comes up with a plan that we're not aware of, is industrial commercial development. Thank you.
Yes,
Go ahead.
that's my question.
Go ahead.
What can be done off the levy, not on, off the levy, with the $500,000 grant, if we were to get it, that can work on the roof as a basic structure? We're forced to consider the very building that's in
Dick?
Yes.
So the total project is $5.5 million. So what you're talking about is if we decided that HVAC was the most important, because that's where you're gonna get that $500,000. But because you asked me previously what I think is the most important project, it was the roof. So,
And that's 900 and something thousand in 2026.
yeah, so.
Isn't your 500,000 eligible for the roof?
That's only for HVAC.
Only for HVAC, sorry, my fault then.
No, it's okay.
I'm not into it for HVAC at this point.
Right.
I also want to say that I can only advocate, Jason. And that's my job, to advocate for the needs of the library on behalf of the residents. What the residents can do is not up to me. If they can't vote for this, that's their business. We can't complain about that.
And it's funny because that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm advocating because, when it comes to votes in the town for rezoning, bringing in businesses, same thing. It's down to the residents and what they want. So I cannot agree more with you.
So we'll be disappointed, but we understand that people have their own household problems. So that's important because even though it's the town's responsibility, it's not the responsibility to pay their tax. It's more of a responsibility to pay for their tax bill than to think about some other building. But, and on the other hand, you have that building and the school with serious issues, and how many buildings on your town green campus do you want to have those problems?
I don't know, but if I were you, I wouldn't bring up other buildings. I'd stay in your building, but
I'm gonna stay in.
Don't be pointing us in other directions. Does anyone have any other questions for Joe?
I didn't mention the two buildings.
No, you did not, no, not at all. That was a blip, I thought I heard you, but it was a bee went by.
What is the cost of the roof?
900 and something thousand in 2026.
Hold on, let me just make sure.
You just did 900.
Yeah, it's 2026, it's 911,462. That's including masonry too. They go hand in hand.
I'm not sure I agree with this, that I'm hoping that rates come down, interest rates, et cetera. However, I don't like to see a building be destroyed because it has not been the foundation of something's got to be done. What do you suggest, including raising taxes, as far as financing the roof portion of the library?
Are you talking to Kate?
Yes.
Really?
So, I think his question was initially to you, but it shifted to you because Joe pumped it
How do
to
you
you.
get it done?
No, I can't tell the town that, how to finance something. That's not in my wheelhouse.
It is not. I think the question is, were we to do the entire project of 5.5 million or masonry or whatever, I believe I'm asking the question right. Dick, can you clarify for me? You're asking for how would the town, if we all said, wow, what a fantastic idea, what's the next step and how would we do it? Well, I'm just asking him, I know the answer, I'm asking his question to ask her. Right. So if you were to do, right, if you were to do 911,462.
Well, off the top of my head, and I am not advocating for any one of these yet, because I have to actually do the math, but.
Nor am I. I'm trying to find out information, that's all.
So the obvious is to raise taxes by $1 million, which we have in levy capacity. I hate that idea.
I do too.
Which is about $400 per person, per household.
It's-
We found out with a minute two.
Well, it's 286 actually, out of
Yeah,
4.
well, if we hate that idea, what's the next one?
Okay, sorry. Well, you put me in a rabbit hole.
I'm he did. I repeated the question.
You could take the money from the stabilization account, capital stabilization, which with the $1 million that we put in already, which was for the school.
Right.
we would have with this year's free cash, if you went with some of that, we'd have somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 236,000 left in stabilization, so I sort of hate that idea. I like almost as much as the taxes idea.
So it's raise and appropriate, use savings, or?
We could look at
Financing.
look at financing it, but I'm telling you right now, and we ran the numbers at 3%, and that was being very generous. I think we're probably closer to 5, maybe 4.5. And by that point, if you're gonna finance $1 million,
Right.
You'd need a bigger number.
you do the whole Magilla, because we're not gonna get enough people, we're not gonna get enough agencies to wanna run a debt on $1 million. They want something
Right.
that's more
That's gotta be bigger.
substantial.
Yep.
Right.
And you'll get a better rate.
Or you could do nothing. So those are the 4 that off the top of my head,
Okay.
which are equally hateful.
I agree, thank you for doing that. So we'll come down to everything to 2,000. And I don't like that, because I think that's a ruinization of the buildings. And we can't have that.
I am so glad this decision is out of my hands.
I mean, I can run some actual numbers. I guess I just need to know, what do you want us to run the numbers on? Do you want to split it so you're doing $1 million? Do you want to put 2 projects together, so we're talking about like 2.5?
So let me ask Joe a question. You said you were working with somebody who can look at segmenting out the project.
Yeah, the architect who wrote the feasibility study.
When will they have a suggestion on the segments?
Are there any grants out there that could be applied?
Hold on 2 seconds, Dick. There's a question on the table.
Well, you yell.
You like screamed at him. Hold on 2 seconds, please. Go ahead.
We plan on meeting with them sometime in October.
Okay. Could you try to have it earlier as possible, as early as humanly possible?
October is like in a week.
Yeah.
It's in 2 weeks.
It's 2 weeks.
From
It's 2
I mean,
tomorrow.
that's okay.
He said in October, so it could be 6 weeks from now.
I'm telling you, just watch what I say, because it's going to be just slammed by you. Every word I say.
I know. She's the one who interrupted.
Oh my God.
I'm just
I was trying to
asking, I'm
say
encouraging you to have it
Why
earlier.
don't you run for select board and just...
I did, and it was fantastic. It's been a blessing every day. I think once we get that, Kate, if you can run those numbers in the different scenarios, then I think we'll have more information.
Let me just
What am
reiterate.
So he's gonna give you,
Well, just to reiterate, we're looking to break the project down, and that's what this meeting is for.
yes,
And so prioritization is what the building committee is going to be. We're hearing roof, so...
I think you're hearing roof. Yeah.
And we are, Dick, to your point, we are trying to look anywhere possible for a grant that might be available.
Yes, and I think grants, appropriations, other things can be used to supplant what we plan to cover. Yeah. All right, is there anything more you need from us for guidance, Kate, tonight, or Joe?
Are you done?
I don't know, are you?
I'm done.
Fantastic presentation, by the way.
There's more.
Incredible. It's about the library?
No, but I'm just like,
know, that's
I
what I
thought
just
you were
wanna-
getting excited.
I am, every step we get closer to,
Thank you.
thank you. Why not thank me?
Steve,
Thank you, Joe. Steve, you're a remarkable public servant.
when you start returning your late books...
Hey, whoa, whoa. That is disparaging. That is disparaging. All I do is donate books for that sale. Disparaging.
Today at the staff meeting, he said, some people read,
I read all the time.
like in the room with all of the other staff members here, and we were like, what?
Well, Joe, I was in your camp, and then you just, that zinger, and now, I don't know, we'll see.
Should I sit down?
Go away. Go away. Have a good night. Okay, keep going.
Okay.
So you feel you have sufficient marching orders on the library? Yes? Perfect. Okay, great.
Stephen,
Yes, sir.
any time since I can't see the members of my committee, and something, please feel free to call them.
Oh, okay, thank you, Dick. Appreciate it. Will do.
Okay, and we're back. Okay, so Well, I was hopeful that in my transmittal email, that it was clear that these two projects are not being proposed right now. But I think the idea of looking at them in tandem with what it will cost for the library and other things like that is an important realization for a number of reasons. The first is that the updated master plan specifically calls out the community's desire to have a reuse plan for that building. And while
That building being the old tunnel.
I'm sorry, the old town hall. And while I understand and appreciate that, I also want to be clear on the goals and objectives that I think we can meet and ones that are going to be more difficult. And so this is the beginning of my spiel, my plan, to look at alternatives for how to use the building that might allow for people to have a partnership agreement similar to what we have with DCAM, where we have nonprofits, we have other state and federal agencies, like I know that we get things from the state that are looking for offices, and so we explore those, and in lieu of rent, those community groups, those whatever, either contribute money and we fix it up or they fix it up.
Investing in a building fund.
That has been pretty successful in other communities. It is slow. But it also is not at a cost to the taxpayer. That said, most of the buildings that those things have been successful on, it's 100% exclusive use for whatever that purpose is that someone's going to be renting it. And of course, we need this one very large room for voting. And so it'll be interesting to see how we can try to market that. But regardless, I think it's important. Commissioner Moody took three of these videos. So this is the first that you can just see. We have some asphalt situation and there's a step there. Obviously that's an ADA issue. So we are working on that currently with the DPW to remedy that situation definitely before the election in November. This we are working on remedying, although it isn't permanent, so that's supposed to be attached to the building.
Oh, you would think.
Is that a fire escape?
Yeah.
This is the fire escape, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You get out of the building quicker that way.
Oh.
No one was harmed in the making of this video.
Yeah. Okay. Oh.
Oh, gosh.
Also not connected to the ground.
Oh, not connected to the ground. Oh, that makes sense.
It's really taking his life in this.
Mr. Trussell, you have your hand up.
Yes. Based on this, three parts of the question for me. One, first part is, don't we have extra buildings on DPW, et cetera, and number two, are we storing stuff in the basement of this building? The old town hall, which would need to be moved. And three, why are we closing down this building in its entirety? And I guess number four is, anything that needs being done on this building without support for CPA. So why are we discussing CPA funds for it? I gave you a lot there, I'm sorry, Kate, but
No,
my feeling is we need to do the foundation to save the building. And we need to probably close the building because we don't have the money to work on it right now. That's my shot.
Okay, let me just get through the rest of these couple slides, and then I kind of go into that. So this is the last one, but to answer, I don't remember which number question it was, but this is the basement/ground floor level of the old town hall. We are storing some materials in there, but not as much as we used to. We used some grant money that we received to digitize all of the plans and maps that were stored in here. They were the equivalent of about half of this room, floor to ceiling. A company came and picked them all up in a big moving van and scanned all of them. So they're all digitized, and so we were able to get rid of those because they're all covered in mold and other things like that. So these facilities, as you can see, have been cleaned out as much as possible. We're exploring a grant with the state, which is a one-stop building readiness grant, to remove all of the other items that are down here. This floor is completely closed off to the public, and frankly, staff doesn't even really go down there. There are some items that are stored in the historical spaces at the end of this corridor to the left that we're going to need to hire a remediation specialist for. Joe has been working with the chair of the historical committee for that, or commission for that. Other than that, the rest of this is really either surplus or it's so badly soiled that it can't be used. In terms of turning or shutting the building down, sorry, hold on. We have scheduled replacement for the exit lights that don't work, so that will bring us up to code compliance. We've shut down the area that's here, that's going into the bottom floor, so these things become sort of a moot point, although they're aesthetically not great. And we're going to spend a small amount of money working with DPW to fix the fire escape. That should allow for the November election to take place in a relatively safe environment. And then from there, we're going to have an actual inspection on some of the other structures that are there. And from there, we'll bring the report forward to the select board for a decision about whether it's used or not. Our goal is to have the first floor where we do elections, which it currently is, safe with egress, fully accessible, and we certainly will have that by November. The last project that has been talked about prior to is the rehabilitation of the memorial school. So in January of '23, the reuse committee came forward with a design concept and a recommendation to demolish the building and make a large outdoor pavilion. We had allocated about $100,000 in the capital budget to begin the construction drawings for that project, but then those funds were reallocated by the select board to the Forest Legacy Grant Program, partially because that was a matching grant program that was sort of once in a lifetime deal, but the other part of that is we didn't have the money to bring construction drawings through to fruition, so to spend $100,000 to put a lovely construction drawings on a shelf only to expire didn't seem prudent. So, but even that.
Quick question just about
Yep.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. The money that was that from the capital budget or was that from ARPA?
It was capital.
So it wasn't ARPA.
It was not ARPA.
Thank you.
So for the debt plan, just specifically, what I just showed you between the library and the three budgets we captured here, Cheryl and I, and effectively, again, anything that you see in red is literally just a placeholder and an estimate. We're just trying to show the totality of this type of thing. If the town were to pursue all of these endeavors, we would be at a place where we would have more than $1.5 million in debt payments, and that's based again on a 3% rate, which I think, as we are right now, is very unlikely. And so, I understand, and believe me, I want to be able to say that we can do all of this, but I think, going back to the initial slides, we really need a way to build this out over many more years and figure out how to, as payments drop off, similar to what Ms. Rose was talking about, as payments come off, other ones go on. And then when we get to those years where we say we're going to do something, we need to do it. We need to not find a new project or a new initiative. And again, that's a policy decision by the policy-making boards. Now, if Scott is still on the line, these are the water enterprise projects and phases. Scott, are you still there?
those are still projects in phases.
Huh. Okay. So Scott, McDonald, and members of the DPW Commission are far better to speak about this because all we received was the requests. But when Cheryl and I costed out what they were proposing for borrowing, which you would see here in water, it has right about a crescendo effect starting in FY30 that is at a rate for these particular repayment schedules that the fund cannot sustain. I had thought they were going to be here, so that's about all I can tell you.
Yeah, we can talk more about that when they can join us.
Okay.
Could you just provide a total, subtotal for that category there when you update this?
Subtotal, sure.
For the water
Okay.
enterprise category?
Yeah, for the water enterprise stuff.
All right. Anything further?
No, I don't think so. I mean, this will be the plan that is for your all purpose. This is not the actual debt plan because again, this assumes things that we don't have, but the proposed in FY26 is really what we're focused on. And again, the blue just shows debt falling off. We don't really have a very good pattern of debt falling off and then equal debt coming on. So if that's something that we could decide to start a pattern on, that would be preferred.
Any questions for Kate? Dick?
No.
Thank you.
Yeah, so of all of the projects, the library, Memorial School, Old Town Hall, I mean, Memorial School, I don't think anything's actionable today. The library is a very tough situation, and we will have to navigate that. But I think the biggest risk is Town Hall. It's the biggest risk because I think it's the most debilitated, and it is in moments of high value. And I don't think we have any plan over the next number of years to correct it. It would be more to keep it afloat. And I would like us, the select board, to start thinking about, without a plan in place, closing down Old Town Hall. And the reason for that is because it holds our elections, and we need a plan for that. What we can't have is October rolls around and something catastrophic happens and we can't have our elections there, and now all of a sudden we have no plan. So I think we need to prepare for that.
I do have a question when it's time.
Okay, thanks, Dick. Okay, thank you. I mean, I think what Kate just articulated is a plan for us to be able to have elections. And I think if we...
This November.
This one election.
Post-November.
I give you a chance, now I get my chance to have the election this November. It envisions cleaning out the basement level so we never have to go down there. There's no reason to go to the second floor. So if we've secured the first floor for elections, yes, there's foundational issues, things like that that need to be addressed. But unless, barring someone saying it's going to fall down around our ears in the next 3 years, I don't see it as big a concern, barring we do those things that we've talked about for that building. I do think the library, at least the shell of it and the roof distribution is really important.
Scott McDonald is on the call.
Is on now, okay. Well, we're now in other questions, so we'll go back to him in a second. Dick, you had a question, and then Roy has a question.
Yes.
Sorry? Go ahead, yep.
That's going to sound silly, but I almost want the town to vote on this, so that when the people tell us we're ready to vote on ourselves. And that means that the way we go on warrant would be by taking down stabilization, because that has to be to town meeting. And this question of preserving buildings and usability may be bigger than just 3 selectmen and 5
involved by using stabilization funds for the roof of the library and the foundation of the Old Town Hall. Possibly in conjunction with CPA funds, because most buildings are eligible for it. There has to be some way that the people of this town can tell us what they want. We are representative government. And I would like to hear from the people.
So are you suggesting we put a multiple choice question to the voters on how they would prioritize spending money on buildings?
Yes, because if you're taking it away from the school, then they're going to have to pay for the school. Basically, they are telling us, yes, we are willing to pay more because these buildings are important, or no, we are not willing to pay more. And I think it's a town vote as opposed to it. And not that I'm shrugging at you.
Well, yeah.
Either that or start giving us some input right now before we have to decide.
I don't disagree that if we're going to be making a massive debt decision, whatnot, we need to include a larger conversation here. I don't know that you can do that. I don't know that you can. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. At any rate, I mean, yeah, there's a larger conversation about representative democracy and our responsibilities in it, but we can have that at a later time. We're nearing select board quorum emergencies, so we'll move on to any other. Do you have any other?
I hear you, Jason, about we face some tough decisions relative to the Old Town Hall. Old Town Hall is iconic and emblematic of Lancaster. I'm concerned about, can we really fund the important things we need to do as a town? The school, it seems like we're setting the school number one, to the library. Do we have the financial capacity to deal with what the Old Town Hall is going to cost? And I'm wondering, somewhat like, it seems to you like you're questioning, if it's clear that we're not going to be able to do it, we should stop that now and make it clear, all right, and not throw good money after bad. So that's the question that I'm staring in the face.
I would like to point out there's not a massive project for the Old Town Hall on the list. No. It's just that.
Well, for this year, but.
For this year, but it's 8 million.
It's 8 million.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just to reiterate the fear, again, the fear isn't about having a perfect building. I can tell you the risk that I think we need to manage, and it sounds like Kate's managing it, but mold is found, and we have no plan to recover before an election. That is our doomsday scenario, and that's what we have to mitigate that risk.
Right. Do you want to hear from Scott?
Yeah, do you want to add? Scott, would you like me to go back to the water slides? Oh, the slides on.
Yes, please.
I thought we were done with the modified. I thought we were past that. I'm sorry.
No worries.
That's all right.
Let me bring this back. I do love a water slide. All right, sorry. I don't think anybody. Oh, for God's sake.
You can start talking anytime, Scott, when we'll get to the slide.
Well, I'm not quite sure what the question is.
The question is for you to present on the water enterprise projects.
All right. All of these, the total borrowing, water lines, that is all for water main replacement. There's many feet of water line that need to be replaced, and we've been trying to do it in phases. The next phase, we're hoping for, $4 million to give us a good head start on catching up with what we haven't been.
A little bit more on that? What do you mean? So was water line phase 1 completed? It says the borrowing ends 2023.
Yes, phase 1 and phase 2, I think phase 2 was 117, and that's completed, but we,
Well, borrowing's gonna go for another 10 years.
Yeah.
And then your proposal,
Phase 3 is for,
$4 million.
there's a few different roads involved. There's Chaseville, Neck, Concord, little piece of Seven Bridge. I don't know.
But
I'm trying to find, here it is. It's roughly 6,100 feet of pipe replacement, 2,500 feet of Chaseville Road.
this is phase 3?
Excuse me? Yes.
Right.
2,200 on Neck Road.
And
Go ahead.
is the proposal then that, I'm trying to help you land the plane on what this proposal is.
Okay, you're breaking up. I'm only getting bits and pieces.
What are you asking for?
We were looking for another $4 million bond, which we had already, it had already been approved at town meeting. I think it was last year. That didn't happen, and with the town going through the override and everything, it was recommended that we not extend that bond and we reapply for a new one in the future, meaning this year.
Okay.
Yep.
And this is what.
Proposed 26.
2030.
The authorization for them to borrow 4 million is on the table. But the second part of that is,
There won't be money to pay it off.
at what rate are they borrowing? What is the payback? Who approves the schedule of what's borrowed? And is there enough money in their balance to pay whatever the premium is? So we did this just pro forma based on 3% because that's what we were doing the other ones. But Cheryl and I are not a securities industry, and so if in fact they're going to move forward, Scott knows that he's going to have to reach out to Hilltop Securities or one of the other bonding agencies, and there was also a myriad of things that bond counsel wanted regarding the 4 million, and all of that comes after town meeting's vote. So those are the things that need to happen.
Exactly, and the board wants to work with the, select board and the finance committee on that, and following the steps and procedures correctly.
That's good.
And raising the rates is one of the steps to go along with that. In the past, the Department of Revenue wants us to raise the rates yearly based on inflation.
Yeah.
Which is something we haven't been doing.
We went over that at the rate hearing, yeah.
Right, which is not good business practice. Now, in the future, that is our plan, to raise the rates yearly to coincide with inflation and to coincide with the needed projects. We need to keep the water system upgraded and, in good quality.
So, and if there is a projection of raised rates annually, Kate, is that?
I haven't seen one.
Okay. All right, so it seems like we have some work to do before we can move this.
Yes, there's quite a bit of work to do, actually.
No, that's, to be very clear, it seems you guys have work to do, Scott, not us.
Yes. Yes.
All right, so Kate will give you a list of all the things that we need, but we need you to drill down on it. Roy, do you have a question?
Just a quick comment here. It seems to me the fundamental question is here, what rates does the Enterprise Water Commission need to have to be able to fund this? Right, and is that reasonable? Those two questions. That's fundamentally, and then we can, if those make sense, the rest of it can be done. But if those two don't make sense, we stop.
Agreed. Anything else?
Which is where the input, from the finance and the select board also comes in very handy.
Right. So, great. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
anything else?
No, sir, that's the end.
Okay.
Now you can get excited.
Any action we need to take beyond, this was a sobering conversation? Okay,
Sorry, I know.
thank you.
Well, are you all prepared to give some measure of feedback on the actual cash capital?
The $898,000?
Well, it's really 6 because the other is 250 to stabilization.
Stabilization.
Right.
I mean, to me, all of those projects seemed like we needed to do. So I am inclined to support that.
So given that, the next steps would be for us
They
to,
all should.
I'm just telling you, so you don't have to think you're siding on the dotted line here. The next steps would be for us to build that out and actually have that as the capital outlay for you all.
Build away. Dick, do you have any problem with that?
Not what I heard, and I think I heard most of it.
Yeah, just, we're gonna ask Kate to build out, that, 800, really 650,000, in, capital outlay. Those projects we discussed at the very beginning, for us to consider.
Where's that capital outlay? Could you put that up again for the AL?
Yep, give me 1 second.
We get,
Ooh,
so we're just asking her to give us more information.
I understand. I want to see it.
Yeah. We're just,
That wasn't the sheet.
no, I know, I hit outlay, sorry, it's a different one.
no.
Got like 800.
No, no.
There we
That's
go,
not-
okay.
that's
No,
the
it's okay,
water.
I gotcha. Is it this one?
Yes.
This is,
Yep, that's it.
That's it.
That's it. Any questions?
Would you check with my committee?
I did, they don't.
No questions here.
All right, we're gonna move forward. Great. So at this point, our joint meeting has come to an end, sadly for all of us. So we'd ask the Finance Committee to adjourn your meeting.
I will make a motion to adjourn the finance committee meeting at 8:32 p.m.
second,
Accepted. Any discussion? I don't,
Nope.
to vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Adjourn.
Thank you for putting up with me, and I will attend whatever the next meeting is.
That's quite,
We don't have to go.
I'm never putting up with you. I always love and enjoy our time together, so no worries. Thank you, sir.
If you can, so speak.
Yeah. We're gonna take a brief 5-minute recess. We are back out of recess. Next items on the agenda are appointments with one change to the first one, Lancaster Affordable Housing Trust, open and unexpired term. The candidate is Kristen Reiner for a term to expire 6/30/26. The term actually expires 6/30/25. Is there a motion?
Move to appoint Kristen Briner, term to expire 6/30/25 to the Lancaster Affordable Housing Trust.
Okay, second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, Community Preservation Committee member at large, term to expire 6/30/2024. Two candidates, Michael King, Linnea Lakin Survey.
I move to appoint Michael King, Community Preservation Committee, member at large, term to expire 6/30/2024.
Second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next is Sterling-Lancaster Community Television Lancaster Representative John Ledoux to the Board of Directors, term to expire September 27. This is a reappointment.
Yeah, I move to reappoint Sterling-Lancaster Community Television Lancaster Representative John Ledoux to the Board of Directors, term to expire September 2027.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Licenses and permits.
I move to allow special one-day liquor license application beer and wine. Applicant's name Jesse Tarble, organization Sterling Street Brewery, event address 132 Fort Pond Inn Road, Lancaster. Event purpose, bicycles battling cancer. Event date 9/22/24. 2024. Event hours 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to approve application for use of town green gazebo activity, annual PTSD walk for awareness. Sponsor, American Legion, Post 96, Lancaster, MA. Date and time, Saturday, September 28th, 2024, from 2 to 4 p.m.
Second. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move to approve application for use of town green gazebo, activity Halloween on the Green, 2024. Sponsor, Lancaster Recreation Committee. Date and time, Sunday, October 27th, 2024, from 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to approve application for town license for entertainment on Sundays. Name of concern, Lancaster Recreation Committee. Street address of concern, 39 Harbor Road, Lancaster. Contact person Thomas Wood, Chair. Event Halloween on the Green, 2024. Dates and times, Sunday, October 27th, 2024, from 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m.
Second. Any discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move to approve special one-day liquor license application, beer and wine. Applicant's name, Jesse Tarble. Organization, Sterling Street Brewery. Event address, 701 Main Street, Lancaster. Event purpose, Halloween on the Green. Event day, 10/27/2024. Event hours, 4 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to approve the application for town license for entertainment on weekdays and Sundays. Name of concern, Fiesta Shows. Street address of concern, 318 7 Bridge Road. Contact person, E.J. Dean, Rose Darden. Event 5th Holiday Light Show drive-through at Lancaster Fairgrounds. Operating dates, November 29th, 2024 to January 5th, 2024.
5, I'm assuming.
January 5th, 2025, thank you, Chair. Operating hours, Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., Friday to Sunday, and holidays, 5 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, communications. There will be a special town meeting to be held on Monday, October 7th, 2024, starting at 7 p.m. at Mary Rowlandson Elementary School Auditorium. Town offices will be closed on Monday, October 14th, 2024, in observance of Indigenous Peoples' Day / Columbus Day. The next select board meeting will actually take place, I believe, at 6 p.m. just before the special town meeting, yes?
Yes.
Yes. So, and then the one after that will be Monday, October 21st. So the next one will be Monday, October 7th at 6 p.m. in the Mary Rowlandson Elementary School Auditorium. And the one after that will be held on Monday, October 21st, 2024. We are going to move into executive session and not convene an open session thereafter for, I believe, just the first.
Okay, so I move to enter executive session. The select board will meet in executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, 21A for the following purposes. I, Purpose 3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation in the matter of Town of Lancaster plaintiff versus Heather Lennon, Richard Bellinger, and Lancaster Historical Society defendants versus Lancaster Historical Society counterclaim plaintiffs versus Steve Kerrigan and Jason Allison, counterclaim defendants, as the chair has determined that discussion in open session would have a detrimental effect of the town's litigation position and not to reconvene in open session thereafter.
Second. All those in favor of convening, moving into executive session, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are going to executive session. Thank you all very much.